Hey, everybody. I'm going to start the call. This is the VO Dojo, also Sensei, free question and answer webinar. I'm Tish Hicks, the Master Sensei of the VO Dojo here in Burbank. And we are joined by our wonderful techno sensei, Dan Lenard in Sherman Oaks. And our guest sensei today is the one and only Tim Friedlander, who is in LA. You might know him from soundBOX LA. You might know him from VO Weekly Workout, Gardner Street Workout, all the wonderful things that he has going in the voiceover world, in addition to his own work, which I'll let him share a little bit about. And I always, it always means a lot to me when Tim does anything with Dojo, because maybe you can share the story of how Dojo has been a part of your journey. But let me have you guys introduce yourselves. Why don't we start with you, Tim, since we kind of segued?
Sure. All right. Morning, everybody. My name is Tim Friedlander, and I'm here in Los Angeles. I'm actually at my studio in Hollywood today. And I've been full-time in voiceover for about 2.5 years. And I've told the story on Dan's show on VOBS a couple times.
More than once. Yeah.
More than once. So Dan can tell it probably better than I can. Of just, going through the journey of voiceover for 10, 12, 14 years, to the point where I was done and decided to give it one more shot, and ending up in a couple years later being full-time, running a studio in Hollywood, and kind of voicing a show called Toy Makers, which I actually got through a connection that I made through the Dojo with Tish. And that's a show actually that I've been narrating. We're going into our 3rd season, and starting in February. And that's the abridged version.
Right. Yeah, the Fight Club ended up being a really powerful part of your journey.
Yeah, and I think that was my 2nd or 3rd Fight Club I'd ever been to.
Mm-hmm.
That was the very, very beginning. And actually, the Fight Club is where I met Jay Preston.
Oh, right.
So Jay Preston and I met at Fight Club.
I didn't realize that part.
Then, that's the first time we met, and we ended up going on to do the Gardner Collective, Voiceover Collective workouts, as well as the VO Weekly Workout, which is the online workout that we've been doing for a little over a year now.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
And Dan, can you share us a little bit about who you are and what you are up to, all the goodness?
Yeah, sure. I've been doing voiceover in one form or another since the Ford administration. He was president, for those of you who don't remember that or know that. But I was in radio for a good long time, got out of radio, went into insurance for a bit, went into education, taught for a few years, got my master's in education, departed education, and discovered voiceover online in about 2002, and I've been doing that pretty much full-time ever since. And seeing as I had some expertise in voice recording, I started to get a lot of email and messages from people asking for help building their home studios, because nobody knew what a home studio was or what it was supposed to be. So I started writing columns on it and started helping people professionally about 2005, and have been doing that ever since, and have probably built more personal home studios than anybody else on the planet, showing people how it really needs to be done, in your closet or wherever it is that you have it. So that's who I am.
Excellent. Yes, and you're also an instrumental part of WOVO as well, right? World Voices.
I am vice president of Audio Technical Standards.
Yes, that sounds very fancy. Yay. Well, thank you guys so much for being here. If you haven't done an Ask the Sensei, it's basically we're here to answer any questions that might be on your mind or places where you're feeling stuck. I was talking to somebody this week, and he listened to our Demo Listen Derby webinar that we did a couple weeks ago. And he called, said, "Hey, where are you at in your journey?" And he's like, "Well, stuck like everyone else." And I was like, That's interesting. I don't know that everyone else is stuck, but we all feel that at some point or another. Or you may feel completely unstuck and be like, all right, what's next? Which is also valid. So it looks like everyone has been answering the poll, which is great. As I said, it lets us know at what level of nuance and that we can answer you so that you get what you need. And if you haven't already, the cool part about a question and answer call. Oh, I'm sorry. One more thing. Well, the finish of that sentence was, cool part about a question and answer call is you asking questions. So if you look at the bottom of your menu bar, there's a little box that's called Q&A. And feel free to type in your questions there. And we will start to answer them as they come in. There's so many fantastic reasons to have Tim here with us, but one of the things that I thought was particularly pertinent to where we are in this particular moment in time is that you do a lot of political voiceover. I thought that was, wanted to open that up if anyone had any questions about that particular realm. And I mean, I guess if there's no questions, I can ask some questions. So in terms of how does one get involved in political voiceover, or what's your journey been? It was promo itself is hard to get into, and political is the difficult version of promo to get into. It's very, very small, very, very isolated, very few production companies are doing it. A lot of them are based in DC. And I got into it in 2016, and we were just practicing at one of the workout groups. We started practicing some political voiceover scripts that we had found, and it just kind of became a natural. For me, the political reads were an obvious. The musicality and the rhythm and the pace and the way that a political spot works is still very cliched in the sense that it hasn't changed a lot. It's not as nuanced. It's not as conversational as it's going that direction, like everything else is kind of going, but it's definitely lagging behind. And so I made a demo on my own. I had Dave Walsh coached me on it. I recorded it at my studio and produced it here, and just started sending it out and started calling people and started asking around. And I had people who would refer me to a couple production companies and started doing that. And did 6 or 8 spots in 2016 for governors, issues in California, Virginia, Tennessee, all across the country. And it's been difficult. It's a difficult thing to get into. There's very few production companies. So I've actually had this last 3 months, I have somebody who's been working with me, reaching out to production companies and trying to just, network for me and help get out some of my demos. But political stuff is very difficult to get into. The easiest way to do it is if you can start on a local level and find the local races and get in with some of the local candidates and, offer to help them out or volunteer or do something, along those lines with the campaign, and let them know that in addition you do voiceover. That's kind of the long way around of doing it, but it's definitely a way to get into, into it. One of the things that's definitely been changing a lot, and we've noticed this in the last few months actually, is that a lot of the spots are going, they're getting rid of voiceover altogether in political stuff. And they're going with the candidates themselves are doing a lot of their own voiceover. They're trying to really personalize that and get away from having any kind of voiceover, or they're predominantly female voice talent now doing a lot of the spots. That's interesting. And even for candidates in the past, it was more issue based, or if it was a female candidate, they would have a female
they would tend to have a female voiceover. Now it's much more broad, in that they're using female voice talent for a much wider variety of campaigns and issues than they had before.
That's really interesting, and segues to Stacy's first question here.
Yeah.
Hey, Sophia. Okay. I saw that. Woo! So Stacy says, I'm in the DC area, perfect for political work. I have natural delivery. Is there a place for me in political? I tend to think of political delivery as driving and intense.
It's, absolutely. I mean, it's that is a particular style of political, obviously, which tends to be, the I am better than you are, and this guy is terrible. So it's a very black and white thing. There's not a lot of, hey, I'm really good, and this guy is not quite as good. Or this candidate's not quite as good. It's very much like I'm the best one, and this one is the worst one. So there's not a lot that becomes a very big driving, intense one. But at least from what I've seen here locally in LA, it's much more of the, hey, I'm just a real person, and I'm just like you. I'm trying to run for office, and I'm trying to do something to help out the people. And it's getting a little away from that. So, Stacey, I think, if you're in the area, DC, Maryland, a lot of those areas where a lot of the production companies are, and, some great opportunities. There's if you just I just basically started Googling political production companies, and there's not a lot of them. There's really kind of 4 or 5 main big ones that do a lot of the production stuff. They're also, it's still very insular in that people go back and work with people that they trust and have worked with in all the campaigns. So they know that they can do this. A lot of times, the political stuff is, hey, I need this in the next 10 minutes. I've lost jobs because I couldn't get from the gym to my house in time, and it's a 10-minute drive because they literally need you to walk in the booth at that moment. Something happens at 11. They want to record at 11:30. They want to go to air at noon.
Wow,
so, it's not literally that quick, but it's, they want to be able to react and post right away.
Yeah.
So, if you're in the DC area, as far as like training for demos and political, I don't know a lot of people who really do that. I just kind of figured it out on my own as far as the training went. And it's very, it's very promo. It's promo-esque.
It has that intensity, and one of the distinctions I make about promos, like what is an adjustment that you make when you shift to the genre of promo, is I think a lot in commercials there's an emphasis on sharing, right? One of the foundational principles that we work with at the Dojo is voiceover is communication. Communication is an exchange of vibrational energy. So it's more about getting that conversational feel of, I'm sharing something with you. I really like this. And in promo, I think of it as the imperative voice. Like, I'm telling you what to do.
Yeah, it's definitely, it's still, I'm telling you. Let me tell you what is right. Let me tell you what is wrong.
And tell you what to do.
And tell you what to do about it, right.
Like, here's what you should do. If you had a brain in your head, you'd do that.
Exactly.
Right, yeah. That's interesting. And in terms of finding the place for your voice, Stacey, I think this goes for everybody. Understand what your voice does. And if you have a natural delivery, then start tuning into what are the political things. And even if you have a natural delivery, there's going to be something that you really believe in, you really stand for. And there's going to be, if you think of how you speak of something, when you really believe something, that version of your voice would be your version of the political.
Yeah, and the natural passion that you bring to the issue that you're talking about is great. And I think that you're seeing that shift is going more towards a conversational, getting away from big voices like mine, getting away to more of the candidates doing their own
more personal,
more personal, getting away from the aggressive abrasiveness of some of the spots. I think there still is the the real black and white, good and bad, aggressive spots you're going to have. But, you're seeing this, I've a couple of my, the female voice talent that I know really well are working 10 times as much as I am this year.
That is fascinating.
And I think, it's great. It's such a different feel to this. And And it's so great to see these candidates who can either speak for themselves in a way that sounds natural and authentic, or bring in a voice that it doesn't just get to, oh, well, it's another political spot. It's more of you hearing somebody just talking to you about the issue, and somebody who, you know, could be your neighbor. And not that that's not something that I do, but in my natural, you know, if I really, I'm definitely have the aggressive big voice. I do like the real kind of the blue collar Ford F-150 type middle America,
right.
which I tend to do a lot of, you know, down to earth type stuff for the spots.
Tim Friedlander says he does political spots.
Right, exactly.
But let's look at the record.
Exactly.
Anything to share, Dan? Anything on this?
Well, being somewhat of a quiet political person with my own beliefs and stuff like that. Yeah, no, Tim's right on that. You know, we're seeing a change in the marketplace, and you know, and I think that's probably a good thing. Whereas, you know, candidates doing their own stuff, you know, I'm always of the belief that, you know, the best person to tell the story is the person whose story it is. And, you know, and fortunately or unfortunately for voice actors, you know, a lot of advertisers and political consultants are now realizing that, and they're going to that.
Right.
How long that lasts is like anything else. It could be, you know, seeing as we're also seeing an age where political hype actually is becoming more and more intense, we may actually see a drift back to the more negative or more intense ads. So don't give up on it. Learn the read. Learn to have the versatility to do all of those things, and that will be another you know, place in your toolkit and repertoire that you can use to earn a living.
And Stacey has a follow-up.
Yeah. Union or non-union, it depends on the candidate and the production.
If it's a Democrat or a Republican.
Yeah, or if it's a union paying for the spot, they're going to have,
which they're not supposed to do.
Well, you know, then they'll want that to be all union. You know, most of it tends to be non-union because a lot of it will run for 24 hours or run for 36 hours. So, you know, to run union, you know, if you're going to run a spot, you're going to get paid $183 for a spot. It's going to run for 36 hours, and that's it. Or if, you know, so a lot of those tend to go non-union, and they pay accordingly, knowing that it's not going to get residuals or run like a promo would.
So more in the 500-ish.
500, yeah, a little bit higher sometimes, depending on how long it's going to run.
Right. And is that something you can convert then?
Sometimes you can. If depends on whether it's going to be radio or TV, broadcast. So a lot of that depends. If there's and it depends on how they've shot it. At what point the voiceover comes into the production.
Oh, that's interesting.
So if the spot's already been shot and they produce things, then you usually can't convert.
Okay, I see.
But once, you know, if you come in the voiceover as just radio, then you can sometimes convert that.
Okay.
But it's always case by case basis, and it depends on, you know, where it's running and whether you're union or non-union or FICOR or, you know, what your status is on where it's going to run. But there's no union or non-union as far as I'd say, you know, the standard of what those are. They vary the same way that most other spots do. There's some that are union, some are non-union.
Yeah. Yeah. Excellent. And Sophia, I see you say you'd love to share your experience, like about political. So Sophia says she'd like to share experience about social media marketing that might help others. So let's and in the meantime, what other questions are on your mind? It doesn't have to be about political. That's just like a, you know, theme.
It's where we are right now.
So, you know, it was something that seemed like could be a focus, but really Dan's here for tech questions. Tim also is very technically adept. And you know, what's going on with your voiceover? What do you need next? So Faye, if you'd like to type in, you know, type in things, we'd love to share. We'd love to share what's in here. You know, what you have to say. If you want to type in some ideas or you'd like to share. What other questions? What's going on, or where are you at? What's the next thing that would, where do you want to be next, and what's the next thing that would help you get there? Like, what questions do you have?
There's a couple of chat. Let's see, something from. Oh, there's a bunch of stuff popping up down
there. We go. I knew that was something, you guys. You don't come on a question and answer call with all the answers.
Yeah, actually, I was just gonna say. Actually, I see quite a few people on here I recognize from the VO weekly workout. So I'm happy to answer questions about that as well, if anybody would like. Which is, it's a public. The VO weekly workout is public, different than some of the other stuff that we do, which is just based here in LA. And then maybe I'll ask Dan some tech questions.
Well, but then I'd have to ask you tech questions.
Oh, man. And then it would spiral down, and it would be good.
You know, I find it fascinating, though, that, you know, most of the time people say, what do I need for my home studio? And I go, don't look at the mythology. Don't get stuck in the idea that you've got to have, you know, windows and a couch and guitars hanging on the wall for your home studio. And then you look behind him, and there's guitars hanging on the wall.
That's 16 years in the process, right there. That's 16 years in the making.
It's a beautiful studio that Tim's been working on the last year, and it's a great facility. So,
there's a lot of stuff in there. Okay, there's some good.
Like, let's go with Andrew, because it's kind of has the political, and then we can.
Yeah.
So
there we are.
Direct demo to local politicians. Would a custom direct demo to local politicians be effective? Well, that's an interesting idea.
Yeah, I mean, it could be. I think part of the hard part there is that by the time you get done with it, the politician may no longer be running, or they may have lost. So I did a very generic demo. I mean, I did the demo that I made. I took somewhat existing spots and just made up politicians, made up names for them, so that they're somewhat ambiguous. You know, the people that I work for know what I will and won't do as far as, you know, my political choices.
Mm-hmm.
But the demos that I made were fairly generic. Could have worked depending on which way you wanted to view it. I'm not sure if Andrew, are you saying, like, if there's a local candidate, make an actual spot for that local candidate, like a spec spot for that person? I mean, you know, if you have somebody that runs frequently and he knows, you know, is somebody who's, you know, a governor or, you know, like a mayor, somebody who's you know has been around for a while, then I say that would be effective. Otherwise, I think you could do more of a generic, you know, type of spot that maybe echoes what type of spots they normally do, or something that you think would. Oh yeah, so yeah, scratch track. Yeah, I think anytime you run into saying something very specific about a specific candidate, on a demo at least, you run into the possibility that person either won't be there, or you're going to submit it to somebody who is running against them, or, you know, something along those lines. I have another reel that I put together that's kind of cuts of all the spots I've done, so that's very clear on, you know, who those people are. But as far as the spec spot goes, no, I don't know that I would put something that specific on there.
Right. Now here's something interesting about the Sophia, thank you for sharing what's going on. Sophia says, my political demo has a spot that mentions Donald Trump, and my guess is because of it got flagged, and Facebook had to confirm my identity and give me permission to be an account that has a political posting permission.
Oh, interesting. That's probably new, based on some of the changes they've been making. That's very interesting.
So that, I think that's.
Yeah. I mean, I've posted spots that have, you know, Barack Obama and with some of the other larger candidates, and I haven't had that issue. But, you know, maybe I haven't posted recently enough to get caught in that.
Right.
And I didn't know that was a thing either, so that's interesting.
Yeah. And I think that probably that idea of, if you are going to do this, I mean, I suppose unless you know exactly, I mean, I suppose if you put together a political demo that are the things that you believe in, and make it super clear about what you stand for.
Yep.
But you could also, as Tim was saying, I can voice your perspective in a more general way. So figuring out how to get those feelings without necessarily the specifics of
right.
So
and everybody that I work with, everybody asks you, what are you willing to do and what are you not willing to do? And they respect that because they have enough people who will do, they have enough people who will do what they need. They're not going to try and get somebody who doesn't want to do that and is uncomfortable doing it or doesn't believe in it to do, right. Something that they, that's not authentic for them.
Right. Which goes back to all of voiceover, that not that you have to believe in everything, but if you really don't believe in something, then that's probably going to come through in what's coming through. So, let's see. This is a question from Liza, but it kind of ties in with the political thing because I'll ask a question and then we can segue to Liza's question about production companies. So in terms of reaching out on the political work, you are reaching out to production companies?
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing, production companies, do you reach out to the campaign directly?
I haven't reached out to the campaign directly. I did in LA, the last mayor election, I reached out to I had a contact and the guy who was running against Garcetti last year. So I reached out to them directly. But otherwise, a lot of the production companies, the candidates, the candidates will go to these same production companies to get this.
Right. They hire the people who know how to do the thing. Yeah.
So a lot of the production companies directly.
Yeah. And to follow up with Liza's question, I'm new when marketing to local companies to let them know about my voiceover business, and they say yes, they'd like to work with me. Is it now up to them to hire the production company, or are they expecting me to already be working with a production company?
No, I mean, they'll be, that's, if you're reaching out to like an ad agency, they're not going to expect you to be coming with your production company, with a production company that already tied. If you're reaching out to a production company, then, they know that you're just the voice talent. But no, they're not. I don't, if I'm seeing that question correctly, I don't think, if you call an ad agency or some other advertising or some other business, if they're going to do a spot, they'll have all the production taken care of and they'll call you or, hire you when you need to produce it. So, at the bottom. So Liz, like reaching out to like a car dealership. No, they'll have all the production company and they'll hire you when they're ready for the voice talent that goes with the spot that they're producing.
Right. Yeah.
Hope that answers the question.
Yeah. Let's go back up to here. Angie asks, Tim, share with us your experience when submitting and winning the That's Voiceover contest. Okay. Angie won the ticket through
yes.
Weekly and
the weekly workout. Yeah.
Submitting. So
it's that kind of goes to a little bit back to kind of my journey in this whole thing is that, in that time I did that, which was 2015, I was pretty much done. I was on the outs. I wasn't making any money. I was just doing voice. I was teaching full time still. And, I submitted the promo competition. If anybody's not familiar, it's called Audition Spotlight for That's Voiceover. And it's a promo competition and you win a contract with an agency and a campaign. I did mine with KCAL 9, CBS 2 in Los Angeles. But I submitted at the last minute. I think the deadline was at midnight, and I submitted mine at 11:49 or something like that. Because I honestly just didn't think it was something. Because I didn't think I did promo work. This was 2015. I was like, well, promo is so hard to get into. Why even? I don't even have a promo voice. Why would I even want to do promo stuff? It's nothing that I ever done. So I submitted at the last minute, and as I got through the whole process, it got to the point where a lot of it was performing in front of people. We had to go through a live panel of judges. And then if you get through that second round, then you go on stage and have to do all this live. So I think my my experience with being in the workouts and going to the dojo and having performed voiceover live in front of people, I had that advantage is that I didn't get on stage feeling nervous about being in front of people. I could go on stage and just do my spot. Not to say that I wasn't nervous. I mean, I think we were all terrified up there and on that stage. But right. I knew I had dealt with that multiple times, so I knew how to deal with my nerves in a way that some people who would never, it's different if you spend all your time doing voiceover by yourself and never in front of anybody and never get out there. All of a sudden, you're doing what you've done without being judged, and all of a sudden you're in front of people being judged, and that is a different. It changes everything in my mind, so going to the dojo and being in a fishbowl and having everybody watch you do your voiceover is, it helps with that experience.
Yeah, because what we do at the Fight Club is basically it's a working pro workout. The requirements to play are to have a demo, be repped, and booking. And then we bring that top-notch talent together with the decision makers who hire us, and the evening just turns the audition process transparent. So that moment where you go, oh, what happens? I'm done and I send it out. What happens? We watch it unfold. So you watch, you come in and do your audition and then watch everybody else audition. The decision maker indicates who they would call back or put in their A pile. Then everyone goes back for another round and gets the individual feedback, which you don't get on your audition, and then chooses who they would hire. So you just see the whole thing unfold, and you can be triangulating what you heard, what they said, what you felt, how you did. It allows it to be exploded out in a really, we call it a fiercely friendly face-off. So supportive, but it also gives that like, hey, let's bring it. So that, and that gets you out of your own booth into that realm. And whether it's just a session with actual people in the room, which happens less and less now,
right.
Working by yourself. Yeah. That's cool. So it was that flexing of the muscles in all directions. And then it's kind of interesting how you're, and that, I don't even know.
I don't know. Yeah. I'm like, whatever. I'll give something a try. We'll see what happens. So,
it's always good.
Yeah.
Let's get some technical questions since we have us here. Someone was admiring your shock mount.
Is that a hook?
That is a Hook Studios little shock mount that we've been testing, and shock mounts are shock mounts. The guy that, what's the name of the guy that owns Hook Studios? Some guy named Hook, obviously.
I don't know.
Yeah, but he's a guy with a 3D laser printer, and he plays with all sorts of stuff. He makes these custom pop screens for an Epigee mic. And he was playing around with this, and George Whittam and I have been playing with it, and we use it, but I also normally use other types of shock mounts. This particular microphone being rather light, it's not really, that effective on that. But then again, there's no sound in here that a shock mount would require to fix.
Right, because on a fundamental level, a shock mount keeps the vibration from the floor from going into the mic, right?
Right, exactly. And if you're in a rock band and somebody's using a studio condenser mic or something, and somebody's playing the bass really hard, or the drum isolation booth is leaking a bit, that can leak into that microphone. Mm-hmm. Not an issue here at the VoiceOver Body Shop. The only vibrations we get is the cavitation of low-flying helicopters.
Cool. And is the Hook a high-end thing?
No. It's they're almost a novelty, I think, to some people. It's not, it's something. It looks cool, sort of, and I think on a heavy microphone, it might be somewhat beneficial. But I think he was just playing around with an idea, and because I switch microphones on here so often, when I'm testing things or demoing things, I'm like, well, I'll have that on there just for a little additional shock mounting. So it's very independent of the non-vibrations that exist in here. So
cool. Let's keep on some technical things, and then a Galaxy S9. as your mom calls, yeah. I see your questions here too. Andrew has conflicting opinions about whether to use specifically EQ and compression for auditions. Depends on the quality of overall but raw, only normalizing and taking out breaths. And I'm already hearing it already. Versus, and now the gospel according to Dan. So Andrew's talking about, do you do something to your auditions or do you not do something to your auditions?
All right. I have some very, very specific philosophies about this, especially pertaining to people who don't know what they're doing. If you're talking about this stuff, I hear you need to use this. Hear you need to use that. My overwhelming philosophy with this is, if you don't know what something does or how it works, don't use it. Also, you have to remember this very specific thing. When you're creating audio for auditions or for projects, if you happen to get booked for something, remember, you don't hire you. If you think your voice sounds great on something, that means diddly to somebody who's listening to it on a pair of laptop speakers in their office. The idea of your home studio is not to make you sound great. If you're a voice actor and you're a good voice actor, you already sound great. You already have the voice that, to do that. Some people say you got the chops for it and stuff like that. It's all about being you. When you start doing those types of things to audio, if you don't really understand why you do it or how to do it or how it actually works, to me, you're being intellectually dishonest, because, it might be by accident. Now, compression is something you use to even out your waveforms. So the loud stuff is a little quieter and the softer stuff's a little bit louder, and it overall will make you more present. But the fact of the matter is when we're all talking to each other as human beings in the same room, trying to communicate with each other on a one-to-one basis, not on the radio, not on TV, we don't have a compressor, we don't have a DBX in there or all this stuff in there. I think it's garbage. I think it's nonsense. If you are a musician like Tim is, who is a master musician with a great band and all the stuff that he does, that stuff is fabulous for that. For voiceover, you are trying to sound like you as you exist. Now, for auditions, a little bit of compression to even things out. If you're being a little bit uneven in your delivery, yeah, you can do that, but at a very low ratio, like 2-to-1, 3-to-1 at the most. So, and then understand, well, what's the threshold on that? That's why sometimes, depending on the software you're using, look at some of the presets and use the lightest preset you can in there. And
Angie just followed up. Is that something that you help people with?
Of course it's something I help people with. But I also explain it, show it, and explain when you do it, why you do it, that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. Now, people like me and Tim, who've been doing this a long time, who are producing stuff for people who rely on us to get their stuff right because they don't know what the hell they're doing, which is the case in a lot of clients, is, you experiment and you get the sound you want, but because we're experienced, we know what it's supposed to sound like. Mm. And if you're trying to if you're trying to enhance your voice or enhance the audition or enhance something in a certain way that is not necessarily what they're looking for, you may find that it's costing you more work than it is gaining. A lot of people like to use these noise reduction programs that are within some software. Those aren't designed for voiceover. You're supposed to, every noise that you have, everything that you're trying to do in your home studio to record, and this is my basic philosophy, especially for beginners, is do everything you can physically to get the sound right. And not only that, have somebody who knows what it's supposed to sound like. Listen, don't be guessing. Talk to somebody who is a professional person that knows what it's supposed to sound like. Someone like me, Tim, George Whittam. We'll all listen to your audio. I have a specimen collection cup on my website, homevoiceoverstudio.com, and for $25, send me your audio, and I will give it a listen. And if I think you need some major adjustments, we can talk about that. But mostly, I can give you a basic idea of what it's supposed to sound like. Don't be throwing your stuff out there willy-nilly thinking that you sound fabulous. And the fact of the matter is you're supposed to sound like you. So don't play around with that stuff unless you're using very light presets that you find in some of the software. And before you send something out and before you really start really auditioning, make sure somebody listens to your studio to make sure it sounds right. Don't be guessing.
Right. And it's always with everything, I think so much of this business has become isolated and solitary, that the more you can always have your go-to, like I'm talking to Dan about coming by here on Thursday. So the places that are beyond your scope always have people in your circle that you can reach out to, and make sure they're the people who actually do know what they're talking about, because everyone has an opinion about.
Yeah. And just to jump in real quick and to add on to Angie's question down there, and I see this a lot, and you make a good point, Angie. You said you're not using your presets because you've changed closets. And a lot of people, it's going to change a lot. So you got to remember, whatever preset you use is for the space that you're in, not for the computer you're using and the software you're using and the mic you're using. And I see people, people all the time move, and they're like, it doesn't sound the same. Well, so and so made a stack for me, and that's what I just put on there. I said, well, if you moved, you change spaces, and they change spaces, you get rid of a lot of the presets because a lot of it was compensating for issues they had in their space, and it sounds better. So, just know that whatever you create is specific to where you are. And if you move, like Angie did, she's not using them because she's changed.
Yeah. Yeah. Excellent.
So that's when you go back and ask Dan, take another listen, and you compensate for something differently, or you don't need as much process, or you don't need to do as much to the audio to overcome the sounds in your space.
Right. And most of the adjustments that you would make using a stack or just one or two things is there minor little corrections for how your voice responds to a certain microphone or how it reacts in that particular room. And they're little tiny things. Maybe a mic is a little hot in one particular frequency, and you might want to take it down a dB, which might make a huge difference in the overall.
Less is more. Less is more.
Less is always more.
And it's it's like one of the, at least when mixing music, when we're doing that, you tend to try to, you say, oh well, I can't hear this thing. Let me boost that particular thing so I can hear it. The best thing to do is just start pulling things out. Get rid of frequencies. Get rid of things, as opposed to adding more and more on top of things. Then you just have this big stack of things you've added. Start reducing, start pulling out frequencies, and you'll figure out where you have an issue. Maybe you have too much compression. Start pulling down the compression, or reductive. Yeah, exactly. Yep. And less is more. Like Dan said, 1 dB in a certain frequency can really make a big difference in a space.
That's very cool. That's a great way to think about the whole thing.
Yeah. It also helps to know what a dB is.
What a dB, yeah.
Yeah. It's amazing how people don't have frequency. I mean, I talk all the time. No, that's not what it means.
Wait, what does ADB mean?
What's that?
What does ADB mean?
ADB, what means 1 decibel of volume?
1 decibel, yes. A single decibel, a single dB.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not using musical notation here.
1 dB, yeah.
1 dB. Excellent. Good. Thank you for that clarification. Excellent. So Galaxy S9 is actually Laura. And let's let me go back up and see where your first question was.
That was about the car dealerships?
It's up about creating videos.
And marketing. How do you market?
Public agency. Would love some voiceover insights. A lot of the videos are going to be on camera and coaching. Oh, wait a second. So let me clarify. So you're looking to hire people, Laura? Is that
looking to sell her services?
Is that okay? Well, a lot of the videos. Okay, hold on a second.
They got it done intro and outro. Yeah, I'm not quite.
You have a production company, and you're looking for representation of your production company or for yourself as a voiceover. Can you clarify? Well, let's get some more clarification on that, because it's interesting both ways. And have your own production company opens up a whole bunch of things that we can all talk about together. And one of the things I love about these situations and fight clubs is that we get people from both sides of the glass, and we get each other thinking about both sides of the glass. Okay, so you're the voiceover at the production company. So you are marketing yourself as a voiceover person who can also produce an entire spot. Is that accurate? Which more and more people. Okay, so more and more people are, that's something that people would be looking for. It's
full service agencies that provide everything in the package, so the client can just go to this and say, I need to hire this X news anchor. Okay. That's it's a different realm than that's out of my realm as far as like production company, video production services go. But I think in general, the same thing goes, is that it's networking, it's making contacts, it's having, knowing people who are going to trust you to handle their project. And that's cold calling. It's emailing. I really don't know much more how to answer that. How I can answer that question.
Right. And I'm trying to think too. So I think there's two layers to this, because there's and they can work together, because as a production company, there would be ways that you would get representation, right? That there might be agencies or companies that represent production companies and connect you. And then as a voiceover talent, as a separate voiceover talent, you would get representation and market yourself as a voiceover talent. And then marketing yourself as a voiceover talent who has production capacity also seems like another way to split those things out.
Or a full service hybrid.
Right.
All in one solution that would, you hire us, we'll take care of everything all the way down to the voice talent.
Right. And then in terms of that, I mean, that, like, I'm just riffing off what comes up my mind here. And in that case, then having your own voice, obviously you could be the anchor of that voice offering, but then it would behoove you to have access to other voices as well that you obviously vet and know who they are and know will deliver for what you're working for. So I'm not sure if just that little clarification is helpful for everybody. If there's other questions that you have, you can always get on my calendar for a 15-minute voiceover once-over call. I know Dan, you can send things to, and it's usually open to emails and things like that. Tim, you can let people know if you're available. But it sounds like it might be good to have a further conversation about which direction you're going.
Voiceover artists wondering who to approach to get representation. So that depends on where you are in. A lot of it depends on where you are in your career, what training you have, how far out of being a news anchor you are. I think you take a lot of that. Your previous existence will bleed into your voiceover. So I think a lot of that. I come from teaching, so my natural approach is to be a teacher, which isn't always the best approach to a job. If you've been training, whoever you've been coaching with can help you with that. Whoever you work with to make your demo can guide you in that. Depending on where you are, if you're in Los Angeles, New York, Chicago, Atlanta, there's lots of local representation. If you're not, there's lots of regional representation. That's you're in Sacramento. You're kind of in that San Francisco, Los Angeles market where you have access to a lot of those. Check out if you haven't seen the voiceover resource guide, there's lots of agencies in there. The Voice Casting Hub has a listing of agencies now.
Yeah. So
that's kind of that's a deeper discussion.
Right. And then I think the next layer, and this is an interesting thing, because I think there's when I talk to people who are coming from broadcast, There's I call broadcast the cousin of voiceover, because it's very much in the same family, and so many of the skills you have from being a broadcaster and the skills that you have in terms of understanding timing and understanding keeping the flow of things. There's so many skills, and working on a mic, being comfortable there. There's so many skills that are applicable, but it's kind of like when you go to, like, your parents go out of town and you go to your cousin's house, and they do things, you feel at home and you're welcome, but you do things a little bit differently. So I find that the first question as a broadcast person is, where are you at in your development of making that, of taking your expertise in one area and having it work for this media, for the voiceover medium. That's the first layer. And I do think that voiceover agents, because the trends have gone so far away from that announcery, I'm telling you what it is, and a thing that I know that I've had discussions or moments where I'm, at my agency and talking, and they're like, oh God, another like NPR announcer is coming in or something. Like, you think like, oh wow, that's really cool, that person's coming in. They're like, the broadcast people don't know how to do voiceover. So making sure that as you're going to get representation, that you don't get pigeonholed as a broadcaster, that you're able to bring your skills and then go like, and I'm not just a broadcaster. So I think that, and then, the regular questions of the natural progression from I don't know to working pro. Do you, where are you at with your demo? What kind of work are you after? Where are you located? And how would you get a job in broadcasting? Like if you're working at the national network level, you know how to meet people, you know how to talk to people, you know how things work. So how do you do that in terms of understanding what's happening in the voiceover world? And I guess that's what you're asking. So I think it's figuring out what you want first. What are you after, and what will serve you in your market in Sacramento and other places? What kind of work you want to go after, identifying that, and then finding out who is working in that way. But we should talk more, Laura, because it's there's a lot. There's a lot to that question.
And there's a lot to start with. If you're coming from that world, you have a lot of contacts already. And it looks like you started in voiceover. I mean, you've got a lot of contacts within the network realm that you're already in.
Yeah, and then that you say you don't have anchor hangover, that's awesome, because that's a huge thing, and a testament to where you're at and the work, both in your skills in both places. So great.
Let me answer Joni's question real quickly. Do you ever have a problem with doing the political ads for candidates you don't like? Or I just don't do them, and that's very. Then there's no problem with that. People that I work with, they ask if you want to. They tell you what it is. And if you're comfortable doing it, you can do it. And if not, then you can pass. And nobody, kind of go back to what I said at the beginning, nobody wants you to talk about something you don't really believe in, especially when it comes to the political stuff.
Right. And then I also have colleagues who, a friend who got hired to do narration for a fracking company, and then actually at the end of the session said, "Thank you so much. This has just funded my entire anti-fracking thing." Right.
Yeah, I see that side of it. Yeah, so it's like take the money and run and donate it to the other candidates.
So I mean that's another approach. It's another approach, but yeah, yes. Let's see what else we've got here. Andrew says, I'm blanket boothing in the corner of a spare room, which is working for now, but on certain higher vowel sounds, get a pingy reverb. I can EQ it out, 10K to 12K, but some airiness gets lost. Would supplementing it with 2-inch 7 help alleviate. You know, I'm gone, Andrew. Like, this is why Dan's here. I'm like, yeah, sure. But can you translate a little, Dan?
Well, part of the translation requires a little bit more data here, because people describe it's a pingy sound, it's a hum, it's this. Everybody describes things differently. And so to define what it is you're hearing, I mean, I can make some guesses. 8K to 12K, that's kind of high up there. I really need to hear it so I can define specifically what it is. Generally, someone like Tim or I can hear something, and within 3 seconds, oh, it's got this going on. You know, and Tim and I will always share this story about when he was building his studio, and I walked in there and I went, "There's a note in here somewhere." Yeah. And I was right.
You were, yeah.
And it took a little bit of, fortunately he had all the materials to really adjust the studio for any situation, which was really cool. But if it's a pingy type thing, I'm going to guess here, I'll bet you've got a lamp in there. And
that's what I had in mind.
It's a bell lamp. And, let's see if I can find this guy here. Like this guy. And
interesting.
And what happens sometimes is they're made of very thin aluminum or something like that. And if it's aimed towards you and you're talking a little louder, it's going to reverberate and it's going to sound like it's ringing a bell or a ping or something like that. You'd be amazed at how often something like that happens. So I would ask Andrew if you've got a lamp like that in your booth, and if such is the case, turn it the other way. And that might get rid of that high frequency pinging.
Interesting.
That's just a guess, but I have a feeling I'm probably right.
You guys are like frickin' frack. The Automotive Brothers. Well, we've got time for one more question, and let's take Leo's because it's a good one and a good one to end up, and then we can wrap up and tell everybody what's going on.
I'll take that. Well, I'll start with that one.
Yeah. So let's ask Leo's question. When we record multiple takes of an audition, how different should they be? I've heard it said either here or Virtual Fight Club that they should be very different, show a big range. However, anytime I'm at an in-person audition, the adjustments they make are very minor. Shouldn't I show them I can do minor but clear adjustments?
You're two different issues. When you're doing something from home, you're trying to show them the range that you have for an audition. You want to show them, I can go from here to here. You get the job, and they're gonna put you down into this. They're gonna be able to mold you with the small changes, but they want to be able to hit the first audition and drop to the middle, and if you have a second read, drop to the middle of the second read, and here that second read is substantially different, as opposed to going up on a word versus down on a word is not a change. That's just a variation on the same character. You need a different perspective, a different choice, a different reason to say what you're saying, so that you can pick that second read versus the first read and hear that they're two different ends of the spectrum.
Yeah.
And then once you book the job, then they'll keep you in a smaller range.
Right. And one of the things we've been talking about, this has been coming up in the work at Dojo this week, is think of it like if you put your A take here and it has one quality or one feeling or one attitude or one energy, your B take over here and your C take over here. If I hear this, this, and this, I'm going to assume that all of this territory is something that we could figure out you could do something or you could calibrate in, right? Now, if you get your A here and your B here and your C here, I'm going to like, okay, well, he could probably work in there. And if that's exactly what I'm looking for, boom, let's do it. So I think there's two things that you're trying to do here when you're as Tim said, if I'm not seeing you and I'm not working with you, and I'm not able to give you absolutely specifically what I'm looking for, right? Then show me that I can do, and it also shows how your imagination works, right? Oh, wow, I didn't even think of that, but wow, that's cool. Let's work with that guy, right? And then, oh, it was so different, right? And then when you're working with somebody, if you're running at an in-person audition, there's less people, right? Leo's in the New York market, so that's awesome. Awesome. Going to a casting director, there's only going to be maybe 40 people that they see. as opposed to 1,500 that the top 10 talent from all of the agencies. So you're already at an advantage. And then if you're working with a booth director, they are honed in to what they're looking for that day. So they might just be making little adjustments compared to what they see. So it's kind of in context of both things, and you need to know which tennis court you're playing on.
Right. And if you're doing an in-person audition, how many times have we driven away from an in-person audition going, why didn't I do this? Why didn't I do that? When you go into any audition, whether it's for on camera or for voiceover, throw it all out there. You're not getting the job. So might as well give it everything you got. And when you give it everything you got, your chances of getting that job are a lot higher.
So you already don't have it. You have nothing to lose.
Yeah, absolutely. So, do it the way they ask and then go nuts with it. Just, you might show them a different way of doing things and go, hey, I hadn't thought of that. It's when you do something completely radically different from everybody else is when you get a call back or when you actually book the job. And then, of course, they tell you to go back and do it the way that they originally wanted.
Exactly. And that's the job.
Exactly. And knowing where you're at in the game. And along those lines, Joni asks, should you send 2 takes even though if they don't ask for it? I'd say absolutely, unless they specifically say, no, really, just send 1. At least send 2, because we've had folks at Fight Club go like, well, that's arrogant. Like they want to hear a little bit, and they want to be able to, it's kind of like binocular vision, right? Oh, I can see from 2 angles what's going on. So, yeah. Well, great questions today. We're just a little bit over at 11 o'clock, but thank you guys so much for being here. We're here the first Wednesday of every month. Dan's with us, and we have a fabulous guest, Sensei. Couple things coming up at the dojo. If you're just at the beginning of your journey, or having that feeling like when we were talking at the beginning of like, I'm stuck. I've been doing stuff, but it's not working. We have a You Should Do Voiceover virtual intensive coming up. Great for laying your foundations or complementing and supplementing where you're at and taking it further to the next level. We have a very from the inside out approach here at the dojo. So that's going on. Call me as soon as possible, because I'd love to get you going from that. And we start on Saturday, and you can do it from literally anywhere in the world. I'm going to be teaching in New York at the EIF on October 16th, and teaching at the Delafontaine Lab on October 25th. In Los Angeles.
Yes.
If you're interested in Fight Club, call me. If you're interested in our Working Pro weekly workout called the Nth Degree, which is kind of like includes Fight Club, and that's just like getting some accountability and getting out of your goddamn closet working alone. So those are some things coming up. And Tim, what have you got going on? Always something good.
We're kind of gearing up for the fall. We're getting the workouts. For those of you who've been doing the VO weekly workouts, we're getting our guests lined up for the rest of the year. Toy Makers, the show that I got through my contact at Fight Club, we just moved to the History Channel. So we're moving over to History, and
cool.
We start recording. 3rd season starts next month. So probably, it's October already. Holy cow. We start recording the 3rd season this month, and we go to air in February. And then just kind of hanging around the studio waiting for the political stuff to get roll in and be on call for the next month.
Yeah. I'm putting the web address for VO Weekly Workout at
VOweeklyworkout.com.
Easy enough. And Dan, how do people get in touch with you, my dear?
They can go to homevoiceoverstudio.com, and they can contact me there directly, and my specimen collection cup is there. And every Monday night, although who doesn't know about this, make sure you watch Voiceover Body Shop at VOBS.TV, Monday night, 6 o'clock Pacific time, 9 Eastern time, and 8:30 in Newfoundland.
Yay. Well, guys, thank you so much, both Tim and Dan, and thank you everyone who who showed up today. Love hearing what's going on, and love being here for you. So if you're interested in a voiceover once-over, have other questions, or even if questions come up after you think about this for a while, like, hey, wait a minute, hop on the website and you can sign up and get on my calendar. So thanks, everybody. Take care, guys.
Bye.